Still waters carve the deepest canyons. Some souls aren't designed to be loud, they're designed to reshape the world from the shadows. Ascenders, this isn't your typical, here's what makes a Sigma cool video. No recycled tropes, no internet stereotypes. Today, we go subterranean, into the psychological labyrinth of a mind that doesn't just operate off the grid, but was born outside of it. This is about why the Sigma male psyche isn't just misunderstood. It's unreadable to most. Why he seems emotionally encrypted, socially invisible, and yet somehow unforgettable. His depth isn't something you swim in, it's something you fall into, if you're lucky enough to be allowed. This video breaks down 16 strategic points that decode this mind. Not theories, patterns, energetic laws, behavior calibrated to precision. And if you find yourself reflected in these layers, you're already one of us. So lock in, clear the noise, and absorb fully. And if this resonates, don't just watch, ascend. Hit subscribe and rise with us. Welcome to Sigma Ascends. 1. The maskless operator. The average person wears 3 masks. The one for the world, one for close circles, and one even they can't see. Sigma males, they burn all 3. Not out of rebellion, but necessity. There's a rawness to their presence, like someone who's seen too much of the world's performance and simply refuses to participate. This isn't about being edgy, this is about psychological clarity. A Sigma operates without deception, not because he's pure, but because he's allergic to the inefficiency of faking it. To him, pretending is wasted bandwidth. Why play along in a social script you didn't write, don't believe in, and won't remember in 5 years? What makes this trait hard to understand is that most people assume social fluidity equals intelligence. Sigma flips that. He sees most social behavior as noise. Surface-level code switching doesn't impress him, it bores him. That unnerves people, because if someone isn't trying to impress you, you have no control over how to judge them. It creates a power vacuum. The Sigma walks into that vacuum with calm dominance. He'll walk into a room and not laugh at the jokes everyone's pretending are funny. He doesn't mirror smiles, he watches, analyzes, not because he's cold, but because he's scanning for authenticity. If it's there, he opens. If it's not, he moves on without drama. This creates discomfort. People crave validation. When they don't get it, they label him arrogant, antisocial, aloof. None of it's true. The Sigma just values truth more than approval, and that's a threat to every room built on pretense. 2. The cognitive ghost. Imagine someone being present but unnoticed, influential but invisible. That's the Sigma archetype. He exists in what's called a low observable state. Not because he lacks presence, but because he chooses stealth. His impact is felt, but his hand is rarely seen. He's the cognitive ghost in the system. The reason? He's not wired to be the center of attention. In fact, attention feels like exposure. Sigma males operate in what intelligence agencies call gray man mode, blending in just enough to avoid unnecessary friction while retaining full autonomy. This isn't cowardice, it's tactical evasion. Visibility is a liability when you're still mapping the room. He'll fade into the background at first, almost too quietly. People might not remember his face, but they remember the shift in energy when he entered. They remember something changed. Sigma males gather data, social, verbal, energetic. They absorb the unspoken, subtext, body language, contradictions. While alphas posture, betas seek acceptance, the Sigma vanishes from the game board and rewrites the rules silently. This makes him hard to place socially. Is he a leader? A loner? Is he shy? Confident? He exists outside the hierarchy. That's what makes the traditional mind short-circuit. The world wants to file you somewhere. Sigma males refuse the filing cabinet altogether. 3. Silence as a strategy. Most people talk to fill space. Sigma males use silence to create gravity. It's not shyness, it's calculated withholding. In a world addicted to noise, the Sigma builds influence through silence. That makes people uncomfortable, and when people are uncomfortable, they reveal themselves. This is strategy, not accident. When a Sigma is silent in a meeting, people lean in, not because he demands attention, but because his silence breaks the rhythm. It signals something deeper is going on. That pause, it's loaded. He knows silence triggers projection. People assume what he might be thinking, and often overestimate. That gives him the advantage. His economy of words isn't stinginess, it's precision. If he can say it in 3 words, he won't use 4. He speaks when it counts, and when he does, people listen. Because his words don't come from ego, they come from clarity. And if you're expecting him to fill in the emotional gaps, forget it. Sigma males don't do emotional performance. He won't comfort you with platitudes or fake sympathy. He'll give you honesty, clean, raw, efficient. And when others see how deeply he thinks before he speaks, they realize his silence has more weight than most people's speeches. 4. The emotional firewall. You'll notice something when you meet a Sigma. You never quite know what he's feeling. Not because he's numb, but because he's built an emotional firewall. The world has taught him something valuable. Emotions are data, but expressing them publicly is a strategic risk. He doesn't overshare. He doesn't rant. He rarely breaks down in front of others. He believes emotions are for understanding, not displaying. That makes people call him cold. He's not. He simply processes in private. He bleeds behind closed doors. He grows from his wounds in silence. It's not that he's heartless. He can be deeply loyal, intensely passionate, even romantic, but only with those who've proven they can handle his truth. Until then, you'll never see that side. The firewall stays up. This controlled emotional discipline is misunderstood. In a society that rewards oversharing for likes and validation, Sigma males seem like glitches in the system, but they're not broken, they're upgraded. They've simply learned that self-control is power, not weakness. 5. Independence isn't a phase. For the Sigma male, independence is not an aesthetic. It's not a trend, a rebellion, or some temporary detour from the norm. It is who he is. His very psychology is structured around self-governance. He doesn't need space, he requires it. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. The average person seeks belonging. The Sigma seeks alignment. That's a critical distinction. He's not running from connection, he's filtering it through brutal clarity. He won't bond out of boredom, routine, or fear of loneliness. If he's with you, it's because you made it through layers of internal calibration. If not, he's perfectly fine alone. His solitude isn't a retreat, it's a headquarters. This is why he often appears disconnected from group culture. Family functions, he shows up, but he doesn't melt in. Office cliques, he navigates around them like an underwater current, quiet, intentional, untraceable. He's not antisocial, he's counter-social. He views collective identity as a threat to individual sovereignty. What society misreads as loner energy is actually strategic freedom. The Sigma doesn't seek permission to live, act, or believe. He constructs his own ecosystem and he defends it without fanfare. You won't see him debating online, joining bandwagons, or broadcasting his decisions. He's not hiding, he's just unbothered. Even in relationships, he requires wide mental territory. He can love someone deeply and still need space from them, not as rejection, but as recalibration. Most people can't handle this because they're addicted to validation loops. But the Sigma, he values growth over reassurance. And when he chooses to stand beside someone, it's never from obligation. It's from deliberate alignment. That's why his presence hits different. It's rare, it's chosen, and it's never out of convenience. 6. The rejection of the script society offers you a script, Go to school, get a degree, marry at the right age, chase stability, die predictable, most accepted. Some question it. The Sigma, he rejects it outright. He sees the script for what it is, mass programming. A series of recycled templates passed down through unexamined generations. He's not interested in being another cog. His brain is wired for originality, and that makes him look like a problem in systems built for uniformity. The Sigma male doesn't just avoid the traditional path, he engineers his own. This often means unorthodox career moves, self-taught skills, non-linear timelines. He might drop out, opt out, or start over without guilt, because his definition of success isn't tied to applause or recognition. It's built on freedom, self-mastery, and impact. This refusal to conform baffles those around him. Teachers think he's wasting potential. Peers call him a rebel. Family may worry. But here's the thing. He's not confused. He's just uninterested in performing someone else's blueprint. His internal compass is louder than society's megaphone. What's powerful is that the Sigma doesn't make a scene about it. He doesn't protest the system. He just leaves quietly and creates something better on his own terms. His life often becomes a silent rebellion that turns into a reference point for others stuck in the matrix. His rejection isn't emotional, it's logical. He recognizes that following a path just because it's always been done that way is intellectual laziness. So he tears up the script, writes a new one, and lives it without seeking approval. 7. Energy Economist. In a world where everyone's burning fuel just to be seen, the Sigma male is an energy minimalist. He guards his energy like a rare currency, spent only where the return is exponential. Every conversation, every relationship, every decision is filtered through this lens. You won't catch him arguing just to win. He doesn't chase closure. He doesn't engage in gossip, petty drama, or mental clutter. Not because he's detached, but because he's focused. He knows that energy is finite, and once wasted on chaos, it can't be reclaimed. This makes him hard to access, not because he's hiding, but because he's filtered. He doesn't let everyone in, not out of elitism, but efficiency. He's simply not interested in interactions that drain more than they build. He'll respond late to texts, not out of rudeness, but because he doesn't want to split his focus. He'll say no to invitations without apology. He prioritizes recharge over routine. Most people confuse this with selfishness, but it's actually high-performance living. He understands that burnout is the result of energy mismanagement, and because he's not built for surface-level engagement, he only operates in spaces that allow for real depth. That's why his circles are tight, his schedule lean, and his presence impactful. This energy economy is part of what gives him that unshakable calm. While others spiral in overextension, he remains grounded. Because he's not trying to be everywhere, he's exactly where he needs to be, and that's enough. 8. Loyalty in layers. If loyalty had levels, the Sigma would be on a tier most people never reach. He doesn't give his trust freely, but when he does, it's absolute, quiet, durable, deep, like a contract written in silence and signed with presence. He doesn't overpromise. He doesn't do performative loyalty. He won't announce his allegiance in grand displays. But the moment you're in his circle, you're protected, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually. He guards what he values like a fortress. But here's the catch. Cross him and you're out. No drama, no confrontation, just a clean surgical removal. Why? Because once trust is broken, the foundation is gone, and he doesn't rebuild where rot has set in. His loyalty is based on integrity, not nostalgia. Most people can't grasp this. They mistake his calm for tolerance. But the Sigma observes everything. He sees the shift in tone, the flicker in eyes, the betrayal in silence. He doesn't react fast. But when he does, it's final. His loyalty operates in layers: outer acquaintances, situational allies, trusted few, and then, at the core, those rare souls who know the real him. Very few make it that deep, but those who do, they find a presence that's unshakable, a protector, a strategist, a brother in shadows. This makes him one of the most valuable allies and one of the hardest men to replace. Because when a Sigma stands by you, you're not just getting support, you're getting a mind that watches your blind spots, and a soul that never forgets who showed up when it mattered. 9. The paradox of presence. The Sigma male bends perception. He's there, but not in the way you're used to. He's present, but not performative. You won't always notice him walk into a room, but you'll feel the shift when he does. His presence doesn't ask for attention. It commands it silently. This paradox confuses people. In a society obsessed with loudness, loud personalities, loud branding, loud emotions, the Sigma moves like a quiet force. He doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks when silence is no longer efficient, and when he does, the air changes. His strength lies in what he withholds. He doesn't overshare, oversell, or over-explain. That restraint builds mystery, and mystery breeds influence. People find themselves drawn to him without understanding why. That's not charm, it's centeredness. He doesn't posture or preen, he doesn't light up a crowd. But when the noise fades, people remember him. They remember that one thing he said, that one look he gave, the way he seemed entirely unaffected by chaos around him. His presence lingers, like a scent, a hum, a riddle. This subtlety is strategic. In nature, the apex predators are rarely the noisiest. The Sigma knows this. He controls his presence like a volume knob, dialing it up when needed, vanishing when not. This allows him to navigate different spaces without being trapped by them. And because his energy is so rare, so unscripted, it becomes unforgettable. Not because it was loud, but because it was real. 10. Mental minimalist. In a world drowning in distractions, the Sigma male's mind is clean like a weapon that's constantly sharpened. He's a mental minimalist, not in the sense of thinking less, but in thinking better, clearer, without clutter. He's not easily swayed by trends, emotional triggers, or social conditioning. His thoughts are filtered through logic, purpose, and alignment with his core values. That's why he's so hard to manipulate. You can't hijack a mind that doesn't leave open ports. He organizes his mental space the way a strategist organizes a war room. Everything has a purpose. Everything is intentional. He doesn't entertain every opinion, doesn't consume every piece of content, doesn't absorb every mood from the outside world. This makes him appear distant, but he's not checked out. He's dialed in, on what matters, on what he's building, on where he's going. Most people don't understand this focus because they've never experienced cognitive peace. The Sigma guards his like a monk guards a temple. He doesn't need constant stimulation. He actually thrives in silence, solitude, and stillness, because that's where his mind regenerates, where his ideas are forged, where his clarity is restored. While others drown in open tabs and social noise, the Sigma is tuned into one frequency, intention, and that mental discipline, it makes him unstoppable, not because he's smarter, but because he wastes nothing, no thought, no emotion, no moment. 11th, asymmetrical confidence. Confidence is loud, flashy, braggy, right? Not for the Sigma. His confidence is quiet, internal, asymmetrical. It doesn't follow traditional cues. He doesn't need external validation, social feedback, or applause. His sense of self-worth is built from solitude, self-assessment, and survival. He doesn't flex. He doesn't boast. Why? Because he doesn't need to. That's the power of asymmetrical confidence. It works silently, and it disarms people. They expect confidence to show up with a smirk and a strut. The Sigma shows up calm, grounded, unbothered. That makes people either curious or threatened. This confidence comes from one thing: proof. The Sigma knows what he's overcome, what he's built in silence, what he's endured without breaking. That history becomes his armor. He doesn't have to convince anyone of his value. He knows it. This makes him dangerous in the best way, because he won't chase you, he won't sell himself. He's the opposite of needy. And in a world of desperate energy, that kind of calm competence stands out like fire in the cold. Even in conflict, he doesn't lose his center. He doesn't escalate. He analyzes, adapts, chooses whether or not to engage. His ego doesn't need to win every battle because he's focused on winning the war within. 12. Resistance to manipulation. If you try to play mind games with a Sigma, you're already behind. He sees patterns, he hears the unsaid. He notices the pause before the fake laugh, the tension behind the flattery. He's not paranoid, he's just perceptive. Manipulation thrives on emotional reaction. The Sigma doesn't give you that. He responds slowly, intentionally, often with a silence that unnerves the manipulator. Because he's not wired to feed egos, he's wired to protect his core. You can't guilt-trip him, you can't gaslight him. He doesn't fall for false urgency or emotional bait. He'll observe, assess, and quietly back away if he senses control tactics. No confrontation, just disappearance. That makes manipulators hate him, because they can't find a handle. No buttons to push, no insecurities to exploit. He's done the inner work, he's patched the leaks, so your tactics bounce off like cheap arrows on armor. This trait often gets him labeled difficult, but in truth, he's just allergic to inauthenticity. He doesn't want control, he just refuses to be controlled. His independence is non-negotiable, and his discernment is razor-sharp. The Sigma's resistance isn't emotional, it's structural. His mind is built on clarity, his emotions are self-regulated, his vision is long-range. That makes manipulation not just difficult, it makes it irrelevant. Ascenders. We've just navigated through one of the most misunderstood mental architectures in existence. The Sigma male isn't here to be decoded by surface-level thinking. He's not built for mainstream psychology. He's not wired for groupthink. He's the quiet system disruptor, the rogue mind, the sovereign operator. He doesn't want followers, he doesn't want fame, he wants freedom, clarity, depth. And if you've seen echoes of yourself in these layers, you're not watching from the outside, you're one of us. The world will keep mislabeling men like you, cold, arrogant, detached. Let them talk. While they project, you build. While they chase attention, you evolve in silence. Because ascenders don't shout. We shift the ground they're standing on. This isn't just a channel, it's a signal, a map for the outliers, the lone strategists, the quiet kings. So if this spoke to you, don't just like it, own it, subscribe and align yourself with the frequency you were built for. Sigma ascends. No noise, no masks, just the code and those who live it. Until next time, stay sharp, stay sovereign, stay ascending.